Hey everybody, Drilling in the name of here. By now you probably know the closed alpha of Rogue Core was released to a small group of playtesters. I was lucky enough to be in that group, and after spending a considerable amount of time in the game, there's a lot to discuss. And while there is plenty of good to point out, there's also quite a few issues, and we may as well start from the top. Each mission in Rogue Core sends the Reclaimers down to the most uncharted depths of Hoxus. Barrier drones are used to get through the Greyout barrier, but as soon as the Reclaimers pass through, the drones are destroyed and the barrier closes. Now here's our first problem. I mean, what if a Slicer forgot their sword in the drop pod, or Ellis got distracted and didn't make it through? This is a major safety violation, and we're going to need Deep Rock to install emergency exits at each barrier. From here, Reclaimers enter a facility for gear, and they're greeted by a sign that I find very disturbing. It displays the days since last incident, but there seems to be only enough room for one more digit, which means they're not even planning on going more than a few months without an accident. Once the Reclaimers have chosen a weapon and piece of equipment, they're let loose in the bowels of Hoxus. While there are many positive things to aid Reclaimers along the way, such as bio boosters, workbenches, and ammo crates, the Expedite events are where the major problems lie. Let's start with the worst of the bunch, which is called the A1 Bighorn. This is a massive launch pad used to charge up a device known as the Ram Hammer, which is used to smash open an Expedite boulder. I'm sure I don't even need to say it, but this track needs to have safety railings. As if that weren't bad enough, once a Reclaimer starts the Ram Hammer, they're actually required to stay near it to keep it moving. If the Reclaimers manage to get the Ram Hammer to the end without getting caught in the tracks, it can then be launched into the Expedite boulder. Oh, and of course this can happen. Next, we have the cargo bay. Barrels of fluid cargo need to be taken from this broken transport and added to this scale in front of the cargo bay. Once the scale hits 100%, it opens to reveal a safe holding an Expedite nodule. This may seem like a pretty safe event, but dwarves also weigh down the scale, and I think we all know how much they love messing with heavy equipment. To make matters even worse, enemies also weigh down the scale, which may encourage lazy Reclaimers to use themselves as bait to lure Correspond Clamorheads onto it. Install fence around scale. From here, we'll take a look at the Geode processor. When this machine is booted up, it scans a large pit for Expedite geodes. The screen will display how many are found as well as a count for each type. Reclaimers then enter the pit and must dig around in search of these geodes, which can then be loaded into the Geode processor. Worthless chunks can be thrown into the ground for a small bit of Expedite. Red sugar geodes can be cracked into consumable red sugar. And if you're lucky enough to find the Expedite gem, you'll get enough Expedite for an upgrade. However, if it finds a rift stone, it'll send a swarm to your location. The danger here is being stuck in a pit while enemies pour down on you, so we're going to need Deep Rock to deploy a safety net so our Reclaimers can dig in peace. Up next is the secure container. This is probably the least problematic since we're all familiar with uplink fuel cell and black box defense by now. Once a Reclaimer starts the container, they must stay inside the radius and defend it from enemies while it processes an Expedite nodule. This gets a pass for now, but I would like to see an increase in the radius to prevent Reclaimers from shooting each other's beards off. This next event gives Reclaimers the option of taking on one of their fiercest opponents. The Research Observation Containment Unit contains a research subject, though we can all see it's a Crassus detonator that leaves behind Expedite instead of gold. Besides the inherent danger of willingly taking on a bulk detonator, Deep Rock Galactic for some reason has also placed the button to release it right next to the containment unit. This is obviously incredibly dangerous, and the button will need to be placed a much safer distance away. And finally, we have the Colossus, a massive set of dual drills that are used to carve out an Expedite monolith. When started, both drills need to be maintained at these two stations until the process is complete. But as I'm sure you've noticed, the stations are directly beneath the drills. Now this Slicer thankfully has on a full helmet, as all Reclaimers should, but imagine a spotter getting his beard sucked up into that thing. Actually, I'd rather not imagine that. Too scary. Deep Rock will need to move these repair stations far away from the drills. Now if these Reclaimers somehow made it past all these reckless hazards with their beards intact, they'll be faced with a rift gate. this gate seems to be held together by balls. Yet, for some reason, Reclaimers are encouraged to touch them. However, if all 3 balls are touched, the Rift Gate unleashes a demonic hellspawn called a Gutarok Gatekeeper. This disgusting monstrosity scuttles around, firing an assortment of projectiles, including this void bubble that will nearly take your beard off. If enough damage is done to the Gatekeeper, a ball will be freed and must be tossed into the Rift Gate. If the Reclaimers manage to deposit all 3 balls, the Gatekeeper will be defeated. So to avoid all that, I'm going to be requiring Deep Rock to put up signs that say, "Do not touch the balls." Now this is all wildly irresponsible enough as it is, but I haven't even mentioned the fact that the caves are lit with faulty lamps, the structures are completely falling apart, and this damn cable is everywhere, which Reclaimers could easily trip over. Needless to say, Deep Rock Galactic has a lot of work to do before I can sign off on any more Reclaimers entering the core. Tripping hazard? I think I need a beer.